It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we move into a Thursday. Gary, how are you?
Doing good. Boy, that was a fast-moving hurricane. I'm not talking about the wind speed. I'm talking about the movement of the actual hurricane that we expected would probably hit, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? Man,
yeah.
Hit by 8:30 Central Time, or 8:30 Eastern Time.
As of midday, it was probably about 1 o'clock Eastern. They still had it arriving at 1 a.m. Eastern, making landfall. But Milton making landfall early, hours earlier than any of the major models had predicted over the last few days. But moving ashore and coming onshore as a Category 3 hurricane. But you see all of the issues that they deal with in a hurricane situation, including, last I checked, it was well over 1 million people without power.
2 million now.
2 million now.
Yeah.
So, that was just an hour ago, the report that I saw. So that tells you how things are rapidly intensifying. And again, Florida left at some point to rebuild after a massive hurricane, a major hurricane, again, a Category 3 coming ashore. But watching it during the day yesterday, it seemed to be, again, everything, the forecast seemed to be steady. It does wobble. The hurricane does wobble, but it came ashore. I woke up at probably about 30 minutes after it came ashore, and all of my notifications on my phone were going off. But,
it hit Siesta Key, which is south of Tampa.
Yeah.
I guess you could call it South Sarasota, maybe.
Right. Yeah. It's right there, just south, not too far from Sarasota.
And so you I saw the one reporter that was out there at Tampa Bay, where because at that point, and I don't have the complete information or conclusion about where the winds went, but initially it emptied Tampa Bay.
Yeah, the draw from
the
tide draw from the storm is kind of the precursor to water rushing in and the storm surge.
That would have been the wind pushing it out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right,
they weren't
right.
on the dirty side.
Right. It's when you're on the opposite side of it, the wind pushes that out. So it's a I forget the terminology they use. I've heard people use a draw, a tide draw or something like that. But basically all the water goes away and it appears as if the water goes away, like super low tide is what it appears to be. And in the video, you can see that they're standing there in fairly heavy rain at that time. It was dark, but there was enough light from the camera that they had to show that there was, again, you could see the sand and basically no water right there in the immediate area where they were filming in the bay. And, of course, that, was going to change. That water is going to come back. But they're not having in Tampa Bay, of course, being on that side of it, the storm surge that that they were concerned about. A couple of stories yesterday, and one that I'd seen a day or two ago that mimicked the same idea, the same information, that Tampa is the worst city in America to face a surge, especially a major surge like that. So, let's hope and pray that the flooding for everyone is not going to be damaging, but we already see as damaging, maybe as predicted, but we're already seeing reports of widespread damage, and it's going to be, again, one of these cleanup situations that goes on for years, not months.
Well, the concern for the surge now is probably, between Sarasota and Fort Myers.
Right. Yeah.
That's where you'd be concerned about
on the dirty side. Yep.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a lot of reports yet as to what it hit. You noticed there weren't a lot of reporters there.
Yeah, that
between
was
Sarasota and Fort
there
Myers.
Was only a handful.
A lot lot of
yeah,
I
that
was
were
watching.
there.
I was watching Fox, and
Right.
they had him, in Tampa, Clearwater, Lakeland, Orlando, Daytona Beach, and I'm like, okay, probably, nobody really wants to be. They figured probably that the surge, if there's going to be one, would be between, because we've known here for probably the last 16 hours that it was going to go a little bit south of Tampa. But I was in communication with my friend Katie, who lives in a non-evacuation zone in Clearwater, and she left her house and stayed in another condo, again in the non-evacuation center, and she said they've lost power. Both the place she's staying in her house, because her cameras are down. But she said she's never heard winds like that, but she's only been in Florida a few years. But where she is, no flooding, nothing like that. And but the winds and the power, and who knows? I mean, it'd be interesting to see, because this is a test case when you look at somebody like DeSantis, who has come across that we're going to do things differently. You saw what he said yesterday. DeSantis came out and said, "We're running things, not FEMA."
Right.
He said, "We're running things. This is our thing." And that's a great point that's being made. Yeah. Any of these things that happen really should be controlled by the state. Now, the federal government can be there to help and assist, but when you look at it overall, it really should be the states that are running the entire, disaster preparation, and then the infrastructure that's needed after it hits to get the power back on again. And from what published reports were saying yesterday, they've got stationed there probably the largest, number of grid personnel to get everything back up again.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
so it'd be interesting to see. This is a great test case for how efficient a state government can be in leading it without question. Because he made it clear yesterday, we're leading this.
Yep.
Not the federal government, which is how it should be.
Well, in fact, it's supposed to be. It really is
Right.
supposed to be the governor taking the lead, the governor reaching out to the whatever administration is in power at that time and asking for assistance. And we learned that and sometimes a president will reach out ahead of time and say, "Hey, do you need anything?" And all of this, what do you need?
Oh, that's fine.
We
yeah.
learned that.
Right.
We learned that during Katrina with Bush, because Bush was getting all of the blame for the locals not doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, and years later, they still, Mayor Nagin and the local and state leaders, they all wanted at the time to blame Bush. Things aren't happening. Well, my gosh, compared to what you see now with FEMA and the way that they're talking, it is so bad right now on every level, not just the president, and we'll get into his whole thing, but the vice president and the nominee for the Democratic Party. I mean, it's just absurd.
It's absolutely bizarre.
It really is, and you've got people right now that are still in shock and haven't even begun to clean up from Helene. And then you have another major hurricane at the time on its way, and they just in fact, the FEMA administrator sounded yesterday like she was desperate to convince everybody. And we're going to do everything. We're going to do everything. We're going to do everything. And it's like, you've already got your surrogates. You've already got your administration's people out there saying the wrong things. The best thing you can do is just go to work and quit talking, quite frankly. One of the things yesterday that was also a test for Florida, I think, and it was expected that there were going to be tornado spawns. So there were these supercells that popped up in southern and central Florida as a result of the outer bands moving in. And because the wind field of this storm was so wide, that kind of started early, and a lot of people, if you were paying attention to the forecast and the potential for these spinoffs, because they happen so quickly. And a tornado, even a short-lived tornado, will do devastating damage. And last I checked, it was 19 or 20 confirmed on the ground, 116 tornado warnings. A tornado warning can happen with high winds. A tornado warning can happen with a funnel cloud that doesn't reach the ground. It is everybody. It basically is the system they have to warning as early as you can. And if it doesn't come to fruition and doesn't reach the ground, then good. But those tornado warnings still go out. And it was when the tornadoes were hitting, they were in this last-minute effort to keep the roads clear, local and state officials. And they had to get out and clear those because they needed to get in and out. And they were making it very clear before the hurricane came ashore, they were doing everything they could to just keep the roads clear from the damage done by the tornadoes. So a horrific situation there in Florida.
Right now, the 1 a.m. Eastern, 12 Central from the National Hurricane Center, maximum sustained winds of 90 miles an hour right now. So the worst for most people is over at this point. It was interesting because when I was talking to my friend and I and my friend Katie and I was like, look, when I woke up and I said, how are you? And she just wrote back. She said, well, we've lost power. I said, well, then we're not going to text long. I know you've got backup batteries, but you don't know how long you're going to be without power and you need your cell phone. But she was getting ready to go to sleep. She said, I'm comfortable enough where I can go to sleep now. And that was a couple of hours ago. It was about 2 hours ago. So that was, that was good as Milton now moves across the state. Look, 90 miles an hour is still going to cause a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah.
But when you think about it, when you think about what that was, 180, 185 miles an hour that hurricane initially got to, you want to put the fear of God into human beings. That's, that kind of hurricane does it. Oh, I don't. Did you see Gerald Baker, one of the editors of the Wall Street Journal? Joe Scarborough came out and talking about it's horrible, all this disinformation. He goes, are you kidding? You?
Right.
Accusing anybody else of disinformation?
Right.
You? Who said this was the best Joe Biden ever? And he's you?
Yeah.
And I always thought, because if anybody ever wrote an editorial on us, if we were important enough,
I'm thinking about writing one.
We would read it on the air. You think Joe Scarborough will read that entire piece?
No.
From the Wall Street Journal editor,
no.
Where and talks about where his he'll never do it. That's how you know. Yeah. That's how you know that somebody like him has no credibility. Now, I will say, I mean, some of the stuff coming out, some of the conspiracy theories that, something we concede clouds, and so this is the hurricane. The hurricane. This is a possibility of a man-made hurricane in order to destroy the election. Well, what's his name? After filing bankruptcy, has to get his business back.
Yeah, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones got to get his business on track again, and that's a way to do it. It's like, by the way, seeding clouds is not a new concept.
No, it's been around for a long time.
It's like, but
almost as long as Joe Biden.
You're going to have that, and like I said, there are people that will agree with me on certain issues. It can be total nutcases on other issues, as we know. And so it's just like, but nobody's really paying attention to that kind of crap. No one, except the conspiracy theorists.
Well,
no one.
yeah.
Now, and the other thing about, when we talk about FEMA, look, without question, FEMA, there is no debate on this. FEMA has spent billions of dollars on migrants coming into this country as an emergency. This is the interesting thing. As an absolute federal emergency, because they're the Federal Emergency Management group out there, they spent billions of dollars. We've got to solve this federal emergency. that their administration created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when you look at that, and then you look at the amount of money, you're not going to, as we said the other day, whatever the full truth ends up being in all of this, you still, as Democrats, cannot win that argument.
Yeah.
You
right.
can't win the argument because it's a problem that you created. You know, the interesting thing, we mentioned it the other day, is that Whitaker on 60 Minutes basically told her, your administration caused the problem. She didn't debate it.
You made a point yesterday that basically was very similar to what you just said. There are a couple of things where she kind of sidesteps it, and it's technically a denial, but she really doesn't argue the points.
No.
The only thing she'll say is, my values haven't changed. And I don't know if it's because, I think it's because she's not capable. Something you've been saying, look, you're going to be cross-examined here to the nth because you're running for president, and she's not capable in standing up to that cross-examination. And that's the tell of somebody without conviction. And I'm guessing she's also been coached. Or maybe it's just her deciding she's going to sidestep it and not really go into the debate about any of these things.
I was thinking about the Jets coach getting fired, and you know how quickly you can get fired if you don't perform. But and we've seen coaches that go crazy at the players. I wonder if her coaches are going, come on,
yeah,
you got to do it. I would love to be a fly in the wall,
right? Yeah,
of that campaign.
Exactly. By the way, of course, one legendary coach that's never been fired for poor performance is Jerry Jones.
He's not a coach.
Sure, he's not.
He's a general manager who coaches,
and the coach. He's probably gonna suit up and put a uniform on, some pads on one day.
Well, then they'll continue to stink. 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. Have your batteries tested by a certified technician. Dead batteries are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. Testing them now will indicate whether or not they can keep up with electrical demands of your truck this winter. When you have your batteries tested, check the alternator for sufficient amperage and voltage output as well. Find a professional technician near you to have your batteries and alternator tested today, so you'll be ready when the seasons change.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. All right, here's Joe Biden yesterday. Second time throwing Kamala under the bus. All right, here we go. Here's the question.
Mr. President, does Governor DeSantis need to take Vice President Harris's calls?
All I can tell you is I'm talking to Governor DeSantis. He's been very gracious. He's thanked me for all we've done. He knows what we're doing, and I think that's important.
Wow. Again, because the question comes from, it's launched off of Kamala Harris and her words about DeSantis not taking his call, and Biden once again separating himself, even though he says she was a part of everything. You can tell this is him once again throwing her under that proverbial bus. Wow.
If the two idiots overnight can understand it, so can you. Red Eye Radio.
I'm Forrest McNamara, and he's Eric Harley. Welcome to the show. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
And
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. All right. Wow, what an interesting day. Yesterday, we said that 2 days ago was really the first day where you started seeing it coming from Democrats going, uh-oh, we're in trouble. Man, it just blew up yesterday. And this is Democrats that are leading it, because really I think what really set the tone yesterday for some of the media analysis came again from Mark Halperin. Remember, he was former ABC political director. And remember, he got in trouble. What was it? I forgot how many years ago it was, for sexual harassment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot how long ago that was.
He used to work for our company.
Right.
And I'll just say this. Not the nicest human being. Okay? But a liberal without question. And he is the one that even, a week ago, that we played some of his comments where he's like, okay, they're in trouble. Let's hear some of what he had on his podcast yesterday, he and his guests, about where the Democrats and the Harris campaign stand right now.
We're talking about Harris a lot on this program for a couple reasons. Okay, we know what Trump is. We don't need to spend every episode talking about January 6th. We'll talk about it if people want to bring it up. What's happening now with Kamala Harris is this is an experiment. Can you win a short campaign with an untested candidate? And what I'm telling you is happening in private polling is she's got a problem now. Okay? It's not cheering for Trump. It's not predicting Trump will win. She's got a problem. Please bring up the New York Times poll. So a new New York Times poll shows her up 3 nationally. We all know that 3 is like the bubble point, right? If she's up 3, she's got a chance to win the Electoral College, but they'd rather be at 4, and they don't want to be at 2. So 3 is right at the bubble. I'm not saying this Times poll is right. It's in line with other national polls. Now, bring up 102. Wall Street Journal has a story about Democrats really worried about the 3 Rust Belt states. We all know from our contacts in both campaigns that Pennsylvania is tough for her right now. And without Pennsylvania, there are paths, but there aren't many. There's no path without Wisconsin. So you see here, Tammy Baldwin's Senate campaign poll shows Harris down 3 in Wisconsin. We all said yesterday, Wisconsin and Michigan are looking worse for Harris than before. Baldwin has her down 3, not Baldwin has Harris down 3. Why is the Baldwin campaign sharing its polling with the Wall Street Journal? Good question. Sean, why would a campaign share their polling negative for their candidate? Because they want more visits? Is that the reason?
I mean, I think part of this is like a Hillary Clinton redux, which is that you want to make sure people understand what's going on. Plus, you're tied to it. Tammy Baldwin can't win if Kamala Harris loses.
She can. Yeah, she can. She can. I think. She
Okay.
can.
Well,
in a close race, she can.
Okay, maybe it's not a 5,000 vote squeaker, but I think part of this is to make sure that they understand this. But I will say this. Off topic, Alyssa Slotkin said the same thing last week in Michigan. Like, this is
Correct.
what we were talking about the other day. This
Correct.
is
Correct.
They are sending.
I think that's the challenge for Democrats is the trend lines, right? I mean, if you just go back now for the last 3 to 4 weeks in Michigan and in Wisconsin, not that Harris was up, 7 and it went down to 4, down to 1. It's gone from 3 to 2 to 1 to tied. And at the same time, those Senate candidates, Casey, Slotkin, and Baldwin, are seeing the same trend line.
All much closer.
By the way, so
you do it to sound the alarm bell. You are sounding the alarm bell in the party.
Yeah, Mark, Dan's right, but just a little asterisk point. I don't want to go on this, but I think it was funny. A week ago, you had Chuck Schumer and the D-Trip or the DSCC pivot and say we're going to bail on Montana and go after Texas and Florida on offense. And here they are 7 days later going, oh, crap. I mean, I just get a kick out of this because after November 5th, we may look back and say, wow, that was a horrible mistake not to fortify the trenches.
I think that move by Schumer was all designed to prevent people from throwing the towel in at the DSCC and all shifting to the CCC.
I know.
And lobbyists switching just to Republicans. They have to pretend they can win the majority. They have to have a path to talk through. For you Harris people on here complaining that we're talking about problems in the Harris campaign, You're welcome to put your head in the sand about it. If you want to go watch MSNBC primetime and hear how great things are going for the Harris campaign, you're welcome to do that.
Interesting that, because, like I said, that is as liberal as you can get program.
Yep.
And he has to keep repeating it because they're going crazy.
Yeah.
You can't even analyze an election if you're a Democrat and do it honestly in any way. They don't want to hear it. Now, we have done it consistently. Our listeners are smart enough, and live in the real world where it's like, okay, tell me what you think's actually going on with the polls. And we've always done that. And we've never looked at one poll. For example, I see one of the first comments comes from Matthew Dowd. He was a Republican at one time, independent. Now he's a Democrat. Ran against Dan Patrick in the last election. But he's as liberal as you can get. But listen to this here. Any time all the public polling points in one direction and someone's unidentified private polling says something else, believe the public polling. That's pure panic from him. Because all the public polling does not point into one, because he's trying to make the case that all the public polling is going towards Harris, and that's not true at all.
It's almost like a weird attempt to kind of, the way they do with the national polls, right? To just lump everything together, and that's not the case at all.
No. And well, we saw it. I mean, we saw it in 2016 when the movement started. And we know, by the way, based on the polling, and it's the best you can do. The best you can do is look at the last presidential election and say, who was the closest pollsters? All right, I've got to give them a little bit of an edge. What they say has to matter a little bit.
Yeah.
By the way, I kept looking at the Quinnipiac poll, and I've showed, what was he? He was up by Trump's up by like five or something.
Yeah,
and it was I was laughing at what we said yesterday because they were up by almost 9 points.
Right.
And
they were off by 9 points. What were they were rated like 28th, least accurate, 26th.
They were least. They were the worst ranked pollster
in terms of accuracy.
Right. And
last election,
favoring Democrats, by the way.
Yeah, right.
And so when you said yesterday, wow, Trump could win by 15.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, because if you add, they're basically their own margin of error, how much error they had, and their inaccuracy to where he is, then it could be 14, 15 points. But they make some points here that are very valid. It's exactly what we have been saying on a number of things. You look at what Schumer was saying about, well, we're going to give up Montana, we're going to go and take on Florida and Texas. Well, the fact of the matter is that there hasn't been one poll in Texas where all red is leading. Not one. There's not one on RCP. And there's not one in Florida where Rick Scott isn't leading against Powell, the Democrat there. He's got a 4-point right now on the RCP average, 4.3 points above Powell. And when you go into Texas, they still have it classified as leans GOP in Texas, like they know something we don't there at RCP. There's only been, you look at the 3 most recent polls, and you have to go back to August for the oldest one. But Ted Cruz leading all red, with no concerns there whatsoever. There's never been a poll. In fact, when you go back to the older polls, there hasn't been one listed at RCP. I'll put it that way. Listed here at RCP where all red was ahead. And so it's indicative. The point is, it's indicative of what they said, where they went, look, that's Schumer basically just trying to keep up the good fight, right? That in the Senate, they want to keep the majority. They're hoping to keep the majority. They're not going to keep the majority. I don't have any confidence the Democrats will keep the Senate. And if Trump wins in Arizona and he's winning in Pennsylvania, I think there's some very interesting things to look at. But I see the the GOP has a great potential. I'll say this, we don't make predictions, but right now, based on the polls, it looks like the GOP could pick up a couple of seats at least and get to 52, maybe 53. We'll see. But it's really about the parties, the Democratic Party's lack of confidence and the, oh, crap moment they're in right now.
Well, I've got to find. I thought I saved the CNN cut. I got to find the CNN cut from Dana Bash, talking about it. And the problem with Democrats is they all know there's a problem, but nobody understands what the problem is. It's like I watched Serpent yesterday. Serpent was out there. Yeah. That's James Carville. Mm-hmm. He was out there. Say you're going crazy. She's got to be out there. She's got to start attacking. She needs to stop making statements and ask questions. And you're like, about what? About what?
Right.
About what?
Right.
About what? And I keep saying that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If I was their political consultant, I'd be saying, about what?
Right.
You haven't identified what you say that she needs to change and be more aggressive. What is the topic that she can do that successfully and defeat Trump? Right. What is that?
Right.
And she can't answer any questions. I mean, the one on Colbert yesterday was just, I've got it right here. It's just bizarre. And this is the second time he asked her this question about what the major changes would be. And listen to this word salad. Here we go.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the President's administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of... But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity, and in that way grow the strength of our nation. So for example, my economic policies, I think of it, and I've named it as creating an opportunity economy. So it's about things like investing in small businesses. I love our small businesses.
Here we go again. By the way, you could hear Colbert. He really was getting a little bit impatient. And for him to get impatient with a sitting vice president and the current nominee for the Democratic Party, then you really got to be stepping outside the ring a little bit. But she said something. I almost said this on the air yesterday. If I were her strategist, here's what I would tell her to say. From now on, at every turn, and end every question with this. All of these issues, we're going to handle these issues. But number one, I am not Donald Trump. It's the only thing she's got. It's the only that I would send her out there and say, keep repeating, I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not Donald Trump. We don't want Donald Trump. Look, we know the toxicity has diminished greatly. To what extent? Enough for, him to win bigly? Quite possibly. We'll see. I think it's got the makings of a very clear win for him. I hope that's the case. But she doesn't have anything. And that's the only thing she should say from now on. Listen, I know we're going to get into it, but I'm just going to tell you, at the end of the day, I'm not Donald Trump. That's the only thing she's got. That's all she's got.
More on this around the corner, 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But yeah, one of the problems the left has is they can't actually talk about why Kamala Harris has only gone down in the polls. I saw Robert Cahaley from Trafalgar yesterday.
Yeah.
And he said, look, she was a generic candidate. Generic candidates always poll better.
Yeah.
She's no longer a generic candidate.
No, she's not. And you know what's interesting? You know, the argument to my and the answer to my idea, you know, just get out there and say you're not Donald Trump. Trump will turn that into an ad, and he'll just walk in front of the camera and go, "That's right, she sure isn't."
Right.
And then, boom, you've got an ad. I mean, it's that bad. She can't say anything without it being a positive for him.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning, as always. Okay, I mean, look at this here. Just 4 days later, Trump has definitely taken the lead. Cenk Uygur there, taking the lead. When asked how he would be different than Biden, Harris said she would do the same thing. Terrible answer. When asked what she would do in the White House, she said she's not Trump. Terrible answer. Big trouble ahead from a liberal there. And you know, that's the when she said, because she said it multiple times now, I can't imagine, because she's sitting in with the campaign people, what do we need to promote? You know, you say that you're different from Biden. How are you going to let people know that you're different from Biden? You're a black woman. He isn't.
We're not the same person.
Right. And she's used that twice in two major interviews now.
Yeah.
The first time she said, I'm a black woman, and he isn't. And then, I'm not Biden. Well, everyone knows, including the clip that we played there with what's his name?
Halpern?
No.
Colbert,
yeah. You could tell he wasn't buying it. But that was the second time he asked the question. And it's just, she can't, it's like, we know that.
What you hear...
We know you're not the same person. What are you going to do differently? She can't say it.
What you hear from the liberal activists in the media, and Colbert belongs in that group, is that frustration. They really wanted this to be much better than it is. But they knew all along. September of 23, we played the audio of Anderson Cooper, and he kept going back to the question, well, come on, but isn't she a drag on the ticket?
Oh.
That was long before they were talking about Joe Biden stepping down. September of 23, CNN's Anderson Cooper, also 60 Minutes Anderson Cooper. It wasn't on 60 Minutes, but he was asking his guest, come on, isn't she a drag on the ticket? That was the sentiment shared by many in the liberal activist media. But she wasn't strong. You know how they knew that? Because December 3rd, 2019, when she dropped out of the primary, long before Iowa, weeks and weeks before Iowa, she got here without one vote. And now we know why. Well, we knew why. But everybody knows why. and they have to acknowledge it. You know what this is like? This is just like Biden. He has cognitive issues, Joe Scarborough. Well, F you if you can't handle the truth. He's the most cognitive person that I know. He's more cognitive than you are. And his little rant. I thought he was going to cry that day when he was going on that rant. It's like, shut up, Joe. Everybody sees it. By the way, it's not pleasant to watch. Many of us, as we get older, become caretakers. And we deal with aging parents who have cognitive issues. And it's not pleasant to watch at all. And it isn't to watch it in the current president. But they knew it. And how many times have we seen the liberals on major things like this? All of a sudden, it takes them months or a couple of years or whatever to come around and go, oh, okay, the lab leak theory, Biden's cognitive issues, and now Kamala Harris. This is exactly what you get. Well, no, everything's fine, everything's fine. Oh, crap, she really can't win this, can she? Everything's fine with Biden, He really needs to go. There was no lab leak theory. There was no lab leak. It was the wet markets. It was bat soup. It's bat soup crazy is what it is. We were just having a discussion. You guys just went full on Karen on it, like you always do, shutting people out from social media. The New York Post story on the laptop. They get banned from Twitter at the time and social media on a story that we said from the beginning. Look, if they're wrong, they're going to get burned. New York Post will get burned. But if they're right, this is huge. And it turned out they were right. Miranda Devine did the work that was necessary, and others then followed suit. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. But yeah, we know, because Hunter says it's true. Hunter's lawyers say it's true. And it is just deny until the oh crap moment that we have all been seeing in the making. You and I have been watching it since Kamala Harris was in the Senate. We know she's not strong. She's certainly not strong enough to be president. Are there enough clueless people in this country to hand her a win? Yes. We'll leave that asterisk in place. But there's something going on with the liberal media. The liberal activists in the media right now are looking at this the way they did. It took them until election night on 2016. 2016, they were having a parade that morning on Election Day. Now, keep in mind, Hillary, days before, had already canceled her fireworks display. They knew something up. That was clear. They knew something was up, and they canceled it. But the liberal media was like in this clueless way, just going, hey, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be almost as if Election Day was a formality that she had already won. And then the results started coming in, and they became angry and defiant, much like the nominee herself, Hillary Clinton, who went home instead of conceding, instead of calling Trump and conceding, went home and cried on the couch by her own admission.
You know, when I walked into Home Depot the other day, just as based on what you just said, I walked into Home Depot, and when I walk in, I mean, everything's Christmas. You know, everything's. God looks at me, goes. The other day, God looks at me, goes, whoa. I go, yeah. And you know what I started thinking of as soon as, because there it is, all the Christmas trees, and because of what I do, just popped into my mind. I went, because you asked, are people really that clueless? And I thought of the ghost of Christmas Present saying, this is what you have to beware of. Remember, he opens up his robes. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. But beware of ignorance the most.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
right.
that's what you have here.
Yeah.
I think it was Michael Schellenberger. I think it was on Joe Rogan yesterday, and he was just like, let me just see if I can get the actual quote that he had, because it was like, it's the stuff that you see coming. And if you talk to Democrats, they don't believe the stuff's happening. They just don't believe it. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking
Right.
about. What you're talking about?
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
He said, back in the 90s, we Democrats were anti-war, pro-free speech, and pro-gay rights. Now the left is pro-censorship, pro-war, and engaged in horrible medical mistreatment of gay children in the name of trans medicine. Whoa.
Yeah.
And I just went, yeah, that's a he goes, that's a good point. He goes, so who's changed here? My values did stay the same, at least on those things. And I like that. My values did change, or did stay the same. The funny thing is, and the reason that you see the polls and the Democrats are panicked and they can't say it is because they know that Biden's willing to throw her under the bus if she does. He's already thrown her under the bus. The attempt to separate her from him means he didn't do his job. He didn't do the right thing. He can't accept that. That's why he's throwing her under the bus. So you've got a Democratic Party where the vice president, where the president, who could have run for another term, was forced out by the Democrats.
Right.
They then, in a totally non-Democratic way, and according to the Democrat, what was it? He was a precinct guy, was he?
Yeah, he was one of the delegates.
He was one of the delegates. Said,
but he talked about precinct captains and how important they are.
Right, but he said they broke the rules.
Yeah.
That the Democrats broke the rules. The rules of the Democratic Party say you can't do what they did.
That was a delegate that called in from West Texas, a Democratic delegate, and said he was not going to cast his vote.
And so
for her.
Yeah, so you have that. You have someone who says, I haven't changed my values, but I've changed on all the major issues that I believe in.
Right.
Well, that's not believable, because it's like, it's like we criticized Bush.
Yeah.
During the whole car company thing. When he and the whole 2008, 2009, when he said, well, I've changed, what he said, some of my...
I've come to realize that sometimes you have to set your principles aside.
Right. That was the quote.
Yeah.
Well, no. Your principles are your principles. Your economic beliefs are based on the reality of economics. They're not an opinion.
If you believe in something, you would tell me you believe in the best possible scenario and best solutions in any case, good or bad. That's what you stand for, right?
Well, that's what one of the problems is, the ignorance of the American public that believe that my opinion drives economics.
Right.
And I'm the one that can manipulate the economy correctly. No, you can't.
Right.
You can't do it. Well, government can set the economy. No, they can't.
No, they can't.
They can manipulate the economy. They can make it worse, or they can make it better based on regulation and tax policy. That's an economy, though. That's not economics.
No, they can't. There are dynamics that they can implement as policy that affect the economy, but the underlying principles of an economy, there's no way that they can manipulate that into greatness other than getting out of the way.
Because you can't change how people respond to incentive.
Right.
That's why you can't change economics. You can't change that. And they believe that they can. And you know how you know? Well, if people would only act this way, well, they don't.
No, they don't. No.
Well, but they should. Okay, you can go with that, and you're going to lose every time.
Yeah, good luck.
But when you see in this campaign, I mean, she can't tell you why she has changed anything. And now she's at the point, because Biden's throwing her under the bus, where she's been asked the question multiple times in the last week. All right, you say you're the candidate of change. People want the candidate of change. You say you're the candidate of change. How would you be different? Well, I'm a different person than Joe Biden.
Well, first of all, I'm not the same person as that. By the way, you just come off you come off as an idiot when you say that repeatedly. It's not funny, so don't make it as a joke.
But the idiots in the Colbert audience cheered.
Yeah.
All right, that's the change we're bringing. She's not the same person.
Yeah, well, and he's going, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, no blank, Sherlock.
He's obviously, she says, I'm not, when she said I'm not Trump, they really cheered.
Right.
But when she's saying, well, first of all, I'm not the same person as Joe Biden, he's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. That was the question. I mean, the question was not that you're not Trump.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how do you differentiate yourself from
which she
Biden?
Can't answer
she can't
because
answer the question.
She can't do that. And there's no way for her to ever do that. Another reason why they should have leapfrogged, but they were never going to do that because you've got the liberal playbook in your hand, and that's impossible. Sorry, she's it. If you force Joe to step down, it's, oh, we didn't think about what would happen now. Yeah, you didn't, did you? You're delusional as usual. As a group of individuals, the left has proven that they are in a delusion state. They say things like they're just going to happen the way that they say them. Like, oh, well, she'll just run and she'll just win. This is how delusional they are. You don't think it through. This is why we love to break things down because, okay, what happens next? Well, now she's got to come out and prove who she is. And let's ask the question. When has she ever done that? As vice president, when has she ever done that?
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, I just see Elon Musk texted here, or not texted, posted on X a couple of minutes ago. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Inflation is the most destructive disease known to modern societies. There is nothing which will destroy a society so thoroughly and so fully as letting inflation run riot. Inflation doesn't arise because you got consumers who are spendthrift. They've always been spendthrift. It doesn't arise because you've got the businessmen who are greedy. They've always been greedy. Inflation arises because we as citizens have been asking you as politicians to perform an impossible task. We've been asking you to spend somebody else's money on us, but not to spend our money on anybody else. Everybody talks against inflation, but what he means is that he wants the prices of the things he sells to go up and the prices of the things he buys to go down. The real tax on the American people is not what you label taxes. It's total spending. If Congress spends $50 billion more than it takes in, if government spends $50 billion, who do you suppose pays that $50 billion?
Of course.
The Arab sheiks aren't paying it. Santa Claus isn't paying it. The Tooth Fairy isn't paying it. You and I, as taxpayers, are paying it indirectly through hidden taxation.
There you go.
There you have it. I reposted that from Elon Musk posted that is the late, great economist Milton Friedman that we have played I don't know how many times over the years, lining out reality. And Elon Musk taking advantage of his forum there at X and posting that a little while ago. And with 100% on the repost on that, and it is the economic principles that, and you know, they're really not hard to understand. We've talked about this over the years. But the Democrats want you to feel like, well, listen, we're not going to get into the weeds on the economy, and most people don't understand how it works, and blah, 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 and you got to be an economist and blah, 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 blah. Nope. There are things you have to know, things you have to learn along the way. We believe you're smart enough to learn those, and that you know many of them because you're a consumer and because you should be in charge of your money. Pretty simple.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Coming up here, probably in the next half hour. We'll have the latest because they're updating it. They were updating it hourly, so I'm assuming they were talking about Hurricane Milton. Last, it was 90-mile-an-hour winds, just so people know, as it moves across Florida. So we'll have the latest on that for you. The number one read article on thehill.com, not a conservative publications, Democrats start to hit the panic button.
Yeah, right.
Democrats' nerves are at an all-time high. 2 months ago, even a month ago, they were feeling bullish about Vice President Harris's prospects of defeating former President Trump. But now, with less than a month to go before Election Day, they're increasingly worried about the number of issues plaguing the Democratic nominee's campaign. On Tuesday, there was grumbling from the Democrats about the vice president's interview on CBS's 60 Minutes. There's also concern on everything from the static poll numbers in the race to the vice president's messaging and even her standing with men, not just white men, but black and Hispanic men, too. Which means later on we'll get to that professor who said if you're a male and don't vote for Kamala Harris, you should be shot.
Yeah, okay.
Apparently he is on leave now because of that, but we'll get to that one. Some of this perhaps can just be chalked up to the normal Democratic nerves ahead of what looks like could be among one of the closest presidential elections in history. Either way, it's nerve-wracking for Democrats. Well, that's false there. No, it's not normal Democrat nerves. It's the fact it's all based on the internal polling that they trust.
Yep.
That's what it's based on.
Yep.
Everything is deadlocked, and everything is not deadlocked. Everything is deadlocked, and the composition of the electorate is unknowable, and there are many things that are unprecedented, said Jamal Simmons, Democratic strategist who served as Harris's communications director until last year. We can't look back with any level of security because we haven't had an African-American woman on the ticket. This isn't about race. Stop it. We haven't had a former president running again. We haven't had a campaign with 2 assassination attempts. We haven't switched out a candidate 2 months before before Election Day. I would say everything is true on that except an African-American woman on the ticket. It's important to Democrats because they're obsessed with race. And as we know, they judge people by groups and not individuals. And so racist will always use race as part of an explanation. Democratic strategist Anthony Coley, who serves with the Biden administration, acknowledged the trepidation, pointing to the stagnant poll numbers in the weeks following the Democratic National Convention when the Democrats were making comparisons between Harris's campaign and former President Obama's run in 2008. I believe you were the first one to call that one out. Now that the sugar high is gone, people have realized what Kamala Harris has said from the start, which is that she is the underdog, Coley said. This is going to be a fight.
Okay.
These numbers are just so stubborn. To be sure, there was good news on multiple fronts in recent days. For starters, Harris benefited from on the economic front following news of a robust jobs report last week. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
Inflation has been a major source of anxiety for the Democrats, has also slowed. Nope, the inflation rate has. Inflation has not slowed. And a port strike threatening to hamper the economy was suspended. Well, that may have helped them with inflation,
right?
But it doesn't matter because it didn't. Nobody felt anything either way from that.
Right.
And so, again, and then they bring up the New York Times poll. You notice the liberals never bring up. We bring up all the polls to you. You notice they never bring up the most accurate polls of 2020.
Right, they don't. Because they're only worried about cherry picking. You and I aren't worried about cherry picking. We're interested in fact, we're not worried about anything. We're interested in the trends of the polls, where we see changes in the polls. And we noticed over the last few weeks, there seemed to be a change, and then the polls start showing up. And I how long have I been saying, I think we both at some point acknowledged the turn from the liberal media. And that happened also a few weeks ago. So it tells me, and sorry, I wouldn't believe you if you told me that nobody in the liberal media has access to internal polls or has people that are giving them information. Nobody has that. They do. They're inside the Beltway. The word gets around. The internals aren't showing good things. When they hear that, that's where they're panicking. When they see what we see with the other pollsters at RCP and the trends in battleground states. But I really believe it's the private polling, it's the internal polls that nobody publishes that they're getting wind of.
Right, and when they say private polls, they don't mean that, for example, Eric and I are doing a poll on our own. Mm-hmm. The private polls are the polls being done by the parties themselves.
Not for public knowledge.
Right, yes. That's why. The polls where they realize, look, we have to make sure that the demographics actually represent what's going on, because we really need to know what's going on.
Well, Bill Clinton became famous. I mean, everybody mocked him for it, basically doing internals on everything, paper or plastic, ovaries or scrambled,
boxers or briefs,
blonde or brunette. I mean, I need to know everything. And so those are Ginger or Mary Ann. Those are the things that they look at that give them, or Mrs. Howell. It's a question about where you are right now as a campaign. Or maybe Gilligan. It's a thing that you have to look at, that you can't look away from as much as you might want to. It's a professor. It's a problem that I think is acknowledged now widely. Oh. And you point out, top story there, the most read story and shared story there at thehill.com. Democrats start to hit the panic button.
It's as simple. Robert Cahaley from Trafalgar Group, one of the top pollsters for 2020 in figuring out what was going on. One of the top three, I believe.
Right.
Here he is on with Sean Spicer yesterday. And this is the reason that she's losing. Okay? It's this simple. Here we go.
Kamala Harris has this problem. When you talk about an incumbent and then you say versus generic, like an incumbent Democrat versus generic Republican or vice versa, generic always beats them because nobody knows anything negative about generic. Well, she kind of started off generic. And so she had all the benefits of nobody really, really disliking her with reason. Most of it was just, she seemed silly and people don't like her. But that wasn't the majority of folks. Now, the more that is learned, she has nowhere to go but down.
It's it, right? Yeah. Well, how do you know he's right? Because she wouldn't do any interviews and no press conferences.
Well,
that's how you know.
That's it.
He's right.
Well, and we'll say this. we follow these things. We know our core audience follows these things. You know, we know that well over a year ago they were talking about her being a drag on the ticket. We followed it in the 2020 election cycle when she didn't even make it to 2020 and had to drop out because of the chaos in her campaign and no money. We see those things. Generically speaking, when he talks about a generic candidate, he's in the right ballpark, but she's not the kind of generic that Barack Obama was. Barack Obama, what they're saying is she carries no baggage. What he's trying to say is she comes in with no baggage. Or I guess what I would say instead of generic candidate is someone with no baggage. But she's her own baggage. She's her own liability. Just as Biden was his own liability for his cognitive issues, she's her own liability because she clearly can't even answer a question. And she can't even talk about how she thinks, which means one of two things. She's incapable of doing it, or she knows if she tells everybody exactly how radical she is, that her numbers would be even worse. I don't believe she's capable, and I also believe she's a radical. But that's just me.
Well, it's this easy. Every Democrat knows she's lying when she said she would be tougher on the border than Trump. Everyone knows. Every Democrat knows that's a lie. Every Democrat knows it's a lie when she says she's pro-fracking. Every Democrat knows that.
Right.
Every Democrat listening knows that. And when it comes to, she was basically an unknown. Well, we'll give her a shot. Yeah, I might give her a shot.
Right.
All right. Oh, she's not doing any interviews. Oh, she's not doing any press conferences. And finally, she started doing interviews. But even the softball interviews, she's horrible at.
Right.
She may be. Now, the 60 Minutes really hurt her.
Yeah.
But the quotes that come out, like what, they're all bad. But even the friendly interviews, like with Colbert, that answer was horrible. How are you different than Joe Biden? I'm not, we don't share the same DNA.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. And she's repeating it. This is
it's repetition.
2 days in a row. And I think she said it. I think someone had the count. She said it 4 or 5 times in the last week and a half. And you hear the frustration with Colbert. He's trying to be as accommodating as he can be. He is extremely liberal. And he's trying to give her as much as he can. But you can hear the frustration. Yeah, I know. When she says that.
Here's from thehill.com, one Democratic donor. I feel better than I did last week. I don't know how, but it still doesn't feel great, and I have a pit in my stomach, one Democratic donor told The Hill, noting that Harris's economic messaging in her recent interviews was not resonating with voters. After the economy is issues number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the donor said. After largely avoiding the media, she did fluff shows, as we all know. Quote, she is still fine-tuning her message 28 days out, and I'm sorry we are in the make the sale phase of the campaign right now, and we're not still tweaking the message, one Democratic strategist said. Huh? Fine-tuning the message? She hasn't fine-tuned anything. What the hell does that even mean?
No.
Anthony Coley, a Democratic strategist who served in the Biden administration, also acknowledged that the sugar high voters had over Harris when she first replaced the president, Joe Biden, was gone. Now that the sugar high is gone, jeez. Wow. People have realized Kamala has said from the start that she is the underdog. By the way, they're all BSing themselves is what they're doing. Yeah, they're all convincing themselves.
Now that they see her, that she's clearly not ahead, by their own observation, it's, she's the underdog. Yeah, right. Yeah. She has all the liberal media activists as her surrogates, and the best thing they can come up with, she's the underdog. You guys don't know what to do you? You're panicking, and it's clear. And it's been clear to us on this show for a few weeks at least.
It's simple. People realize after they've heard her talking, she's BSing.
Yep.
That's why.
And that she's not capable of being clear and concise, that she doesn't have conviction. And what conviction she may have is radical, and they know she can't promote that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I did like yesterday when we played the audio cut where Trump said, I'm running as if I'm a point down. And I went, oh, wow. He had a campaign stop last night. Ramaswamey had a real good speech.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really
great.
Good. He may be president one day.
This is what really gives me a lot of encouragement, and I asked this years ago during the first Trump years, Trump term, I was asking, okay, where's the future of the party? Well, my gosh, we see it now. Ramaswamy, Byron Donalds, Governor DeSantis, J.D. Vance, and that is a very healthy list of players that, by the way, I loved the fact that at the convention this year, it looked like this is the future of our party instead of establishment Republicans being on stage during prime time. I love that. Ramaswamy was great. We have that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Morning.
3 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Maximum sustained winds, 85 miles an hour. So that would be a Cat 1 now.
Yeah.
Right. So moving east-northeast at 15 miles an hour. So that's the latest that we have. As to damage, probably assessments won't really come in until the morning.
Right. The benefits of daylight, clearly, and officials, you know, what was interesting yesterday was that they were dealing with, and quite tragic, but also impressive in the immediate response that local and state officials had to the tornadoes that were being spawned in central and southern Florida as a result of the arriving winds. And their efforts, basically, they had one mission: keep the roads cleared. They wanted to be able to keep the roads cleared, and they were working as fast as they could before more dangerous winds and the eye of the hurricane arrived. But then Milton making landfall hours ahead of what the forecast had been saying.
Yeah, shocked me.
Yeah, it did. I was looking at the archives, and the wind speed did pick up a little over 24 hours ago. Started to pick up a little bit. It went from 12 to 14, and then pretty consistent in terms of how fast the storm is traveling. To be clear, not the wind speeds of the storm, but how fast it's moving. And then it was consistent throughout the day at right around 16 miles an hour with each report from the National Hurricane Center, according to the archives. So I can only guess that they had expected it to slow down or stay slow in the days ahead, where they were forecasting it to be later. But when you see a Category 3, and we can go back and as it came ashore, we can go back and look at how many, and we've talked about a few of them, how many hurricanes come ashore, major hurricanes actually hit. You know, it's just heartbreaking thinking of the folks in Florida. You know, you think, well, you never rebuild, you have to, you know, you're going to have to leave and go somewhere else. That's such a monumental task to move, especially if you're from there or if you lived there for a considerable amount of time. And certainly you don't want to stay in an immediate area that's affected. And there was one story I saw over it was Monday, where it was actually, over the weekend, and it was about Helene and this Florida couple that said our house has had high water and it's been flooded 4 times in the last 5 years. And so we believe it would just be futile to come back here and rebuild. We just don't think. I ran into several, this goes back maybe 7-8 years ago. I was taking a cab to the airport, and the cab driver was telling me that his house had been damaged by a recent hurricane. The water damage was horrible. And he was working on, because many people just don't have the insurance coverage, and what insurance coverage they have, it doesn't cover everything. And he was just working every day to replace sheetrock, to replace anything and everything. He said it was basically down to the bare bones of the house. But it's all he could do. He was working 3 jobs at the time and paying for everything himself. He said, I'm doing it so I can, rebuild my home. And he said, it's not a big house, but it's all I got. So, you think, and there are 2 thoughts, for all of us who don't live there. It's like, my gosh, how do you withstand that over and over again? Thank goodness engineering has gotten a lot better, but it doesn't solve the ultimate situation that Florida is always going to be a target for hurricanes, just geographically where it's located. It's always going to have that issue. And also, when, much easier said than done, when we say things like, well, you're going to have to pick up and move somewhere else. Your life is most important, but we're talking about a life-changing event if you're going to pick up and relocate somewhere. Our thoughts and prayers go with the people that are still, some not even yet begun to rebuild from Helene. And they may be staying at a shelter, maybe staying with a loved one, and now dealing with the remnants or the wake and the destruction from Milton, as Milton eventually will move on. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine what that's like.
One of my friends, not from Florida, but had to evacuate twice, doesn't know the status of his house right now, said, I've not slept good since Sunday.
Yeah.
Blank this. We've decided we move, if not next year, the year after, done with this. Just too stressful.
And that's,
and they've come out unscathed, but it was just like, now, he talked about the fact that they might move anyway, but that probably would accelerate it. I've got my best friend, Jeff, his brother great guy, lives in Venice. And so they were on the dirty side of it. I don't know how close he is. In fact, when you started talking about it, I went, oh, wait, because whenever he communicates with me, it's Facebook message. So I went, let me see if he's communicating on Facebook message with everybody. And there's nothing, and probably without power, I'm going to guess. And then, like I said, another friend who lives in Clearwater, and, she's in a non-evacuation zone. So basically, if you're not a non-evacuation zone, you don't even have a status. I mean, there's A, B, C, D, E, and then mobile homes. And then the non-evacuation that's permanently what you are. So what they say is no matter how high the surge gets, unless it's a million-year flood, unless the ice caps start melting.
Right, yeah.
She's pretty safe, but, she's not from there either. And it's like, it's a culture shock. Now, I know people that, when I lived in Florida, the natives, that's what you got to do if you want to live here, and we're from here. I remember the late Dangerous Dan Patrick, when I was the program director of the station. He was my afternoon guy. And he lived in a trailer. I lived in a little cottage right in Navarre on the Intercoastal Waterway right there. Right, people know where Navarre is. Just probably a quarter mile east of where the bridge is crossing to Navarre Beach. And, it was wonderful. I mean, I did my beach bum time. And no, like I said, never thought of a hurricane. Just never there was none ever came our way. Maybe a couple of tropical storms, that was it. But he just said Dan had the voice of God, where he could have gone anywhere in the United States.
Yeah, right.
And he would always tell me the stories about Camille when that hit Gulfport, Mississippi back in, was it 69, I believe. But he just said, I said, well, the hurricanes and the fact that you could work anywhere, you could probably make, and at that time I said, you probably could make hundreds of thousands of dollars with your voice. You should leave. He says, I'll never leave the Emerald Coast, ever.
Yeah.
Because I just love it. I'm native here, never going anywhere else.
Yeah.
And died a couple of years ago, but, it's just the attitude that people have. No, we're born, raised here. When I think about it, people that live, I don't know if I can handle, think about this. I don't know if I can handle earthquakes all the time. The people in California that deal with earthquakes?
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I've been in just a couple of very small ones that we have had, and they're just nothing like what I have friends that are out in California, and they've described it. One's a transplant from Oklahoma, and she's described it, and she loves California. She loves living out there. And she said, it's the one thing that I've never gotten used to. I don't know how you would.
No, we've had a couple of...
You can't forecast it.
Super minor earthquakes here.
Yeah.
And I felt the only earthquake I've ever felt was when I lived in Buffalo. And I was on the air.
Yeah.
And it sounded like someone took a sledgehammer and pounded it against the floor twice. It was bam, bam. It was that kind of...
That's what they're like here.
Wasn't like a rumble. It was bam, bam.
That's what they're like here. Except one time, I'm standing out in my backyard. It was after the show, and I'm on my back porch. It's, I don't know. It must have been somewhere around 6 a.m.-ish. Somewhere around 6, maybe closer to 7. And then you start hearing this rumble, and it's like, that's not a plane. Because I live right underneath. I mean, planes come in, not low, but you hear planes as they're approaching both DFW and Love Field in my backyard, starting, roughly at 5:36 in the morning when they start, when the flights start taking off and coming in. I knew it wasn't a plane. And then it got closer, and it was just, and it was only a few seconds, but it wasn't that pow thing that you mentioned that I've experienced before too. In fact, I've been in bed in the evening one time, and it was pa-dum, and I felt the bed shake, and I was like, what? And I grabbed my phone immediately, and it was like, did you feel it? Did you feel it? And it was like, okay, earthquake. But the ones in California, those are earthquakes. By the way, one study or one accusation was they were blaming essentially Jerry Jones, because we love to blame Jerry Jones, and it was about the implosion of the old Cowboy Stadium in Irving because it's on a fault line. And they said,
I remember that.
Actually, that's one strong theory that's out there. I don't know. I'm not a geologist, so I can't tell you. But we love to blame Jerry anyway. But it seemed like, I don't know, for a couple of years maybe, we had those every once in a while, but they were small.
Yeah, they were all small. Speaking of that, I'd mentioned to you, I had been following. And it started a couple of months ago. Well, it started in the spring when they closed the Tropicana.
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Right.
And then it went on to the demolition experts, one company working around Fort Myers with all the hurricane stuff, and how you tear apart and and all of a sudden I'm into demolition. It's like every YouTube video.
Yeah.
How do you take that damn thing down?
Right.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the people of Vegas, I got to give you credit. I forgot it happened during our show. The demolition, the implosion of both the towers of the Tropicana, happened yesterday. Now, I've been following a couple of guys who have been every single day, were there. One of them was at the party the last day when they closed, and I've been following it probably every other day. I've been watching the videos of how they've demolished it. Well, they did it yesterday. They had a fireworks and drone show. That's how you do a demolition.
Yeah.
I mean, Vegas made that. That was the biggest party you could imagine. They had fireworks and then the drones, you could, big Tropicana sign, it's like spinning in the air, Tropicana and everything else. And then, 1957 to 2024. And then it's like, then the Bally sign comes up. And then an Oakland A's, I guess they're going to be the Las Vegas A's, signature. Then it becomes a baseball slowly going as these fireworks are all over the place. Then this counter comes down, the drones.
Yeah.
In a formation counter, 10, 9, 8, 7. Now, it wasn't exactly synchronized because the building didn't blow up at 0. It was probably 20 seconds later. But all of a sudden, the demolition, the implosion was anticlimactic to the actual fireworks and the drone show.
The only thing that would have been more Vegas than that is that they used a slot machine and you had to hit 777 for the implosion to start. Yeah, which they may have. Who knows?
I was impressed as I could possibly be. I'm like,
yep,
that's how you do a demolition.
Yep.
And they
make it a show.
And it was shown. It was like they made sure here's the history. Here it is. And now here's the future. Right. And I'm like, man, is that ever Vegas?
Yeah.
I mean, that is Vegas completely.
Right. Yeah.
It
make
was
it
awesome.
a show.
Just awesome.
Make it a show. Absolutely.
But, so we'll know that when light comes and the estimates of the damage, and then it'll be interesting to see because DeSantis really is focused in on this stuff.
I think he's done such a great job as governor in every event that they've had, every major storm that they've dealt with. I think he gets a good. I'm not a local. I don't live there, but observing him in the media, and we see locals talking to the media with other storms. We haven't seen a lot of it this time, but they seem to be pretty happy with the governor. I think he's done a great job.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Okay, I got to play this. All right. This is my favorite audio cut of the day so far.
Okay. All right, good.
Ramaswamey last night at in Pennsylvania at a Trump rally, the 652nd rally in Pennsylvania in the last 2 weeks. That is focused.
Yeah.
Focused.
Absolutely.
Focused. I mean,
yep.
That wasn't actually an insult. It was just, funny because they've been there so much. But here he is last night.
We are in a 1776 moment, folks. I'm telling you something. And I mean that in a positive way, actually. Think about it. What a special time to be alive in the spring of 1776. We could have been victims. Our founding fathers could have been victims, claimed to be victimized by the British monarchy. But they weren't victims. They were victorious. That's the moment we live in right now. And it took a band of our founding fathers to do it. My favorite one, Thomas Jefferson. He was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. I was 37 when I ran for U.S. president, youngest ever Republican to run. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the whole ball game into motion. And he invented the swivel chair, by the way, while he was at it. That's Thomas Jefferson for you. He's my favorite. You got the likes of my friend Elon Musk, who was here, last week in Pennsylvania. Give my man a round of applause there. Took a lot of guts for him to make the sacrifices and take the risks he's taken to speak out for Donald Trump. He's like our modern Benjamin Franklin, actually. Benjamin Franklin, the first time around, he invented the lightning rod. He invented the Franklin stove, one of the leading inventions of his time. I see somebody wearing a bifocal spectacle. That was actually invented by Benjamin Franklin as well. Elon Musk sending ships to outer space, inventing the next generation of vehicles. He's the Benjamin Franklin of our time, coming together with my friend J.D. Vance, like John Adams, the first vice president. Cerebral, an abolitionist, a good man. And the man who's going to lead us from the front is the George Washington of our era. That's who Donald Trump is. He's the George Washington of our 1776 moment. He could fight, George Washington could, but he could also unite. And that's what I think Donald Trump is going to do that nobody in the media will admit. He'll be the president who actually unites this country.
He actually did.
Hey, Mr. Ramaswamy, I just want to say, we love it, and we love your words there, but you got to give us some credit. We've been saying Donald Trump is the great uniter for weeks.
Right. Donald Trump united the United States and the Democratic Party behind the issues that he believes in.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, that's why we call her Kamaga.
That's right.
Unless she's lying.
I don't think she's ever lied, ever.
I know. She's not
How
a liar.
dare you?
Ever. No. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah,
Let me be like a CBS reporter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't do that.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose.
And thank you.
All right, here's more from Ramaswamy last night in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Let me tell you, we're not running against Kamala Harris. We're not running against Joe Biden. We are running against a machine, and we need a commander-in-chief who will finally get in there and dismantle that machine. And that commander-in-chief is your next president, the 47th president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to grow the economy, vote Trump. If you want to stay out of World War III, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump. It is a 1776 moment in this country, my friends.
And tell us how you really think.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that he's on the top things. That the thing is it's not rhetoric. This isn't word salad. He comes from a middle class family. It is very clear, and he's right. Because what he's pointing out is that same crossroads that you and I have been talking about, where I believe we're at a crossroads that we're either going to allow this, probably for the rest of my lifetime, this radical behavior, or we're going to say once and for all, enough. And we're going to change it.
Ramaswamy was born in Cincinnati to Indian immigrant parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved what he said, where he said, that this is a 1776 moment.
Yeah.
That we are on the, basically the precipice.
Mm-hmm.
Good God. All right. Give me another shot, please.
More tequila. More tequila over here.
Make it a tequila here.
Yeah. Can we say barkeep? Are we that old? I think we can.
Barkeep.
Barkeep.
Yes. Hey, barkeep.
Hey, barkeep. We're in a saloon, by the way. Our horses are tied up.
Very quickly, before we get back to Ramaswamy, all my friends know this. They say, you don't go out much. I said, you know what I do now? Said, in the afternoon, maybe 20 minutes before I go to sleep, I go to one of the streaming services, and I'll put on Cheers for 10 minutes. And I'm sitting around with Norm and Cliff and everything else at the bar and not drinking anything, but I feel like I've been in a bar. And so I went out and did something, and then I go to sleep. There you go. They're all like, you're the biggest loser ever. I'm like, not really. Just sit there and hear Norm walk through the door, and what he has to say is quite entertaining.
Right.
And it does remind me of where I grew up in the bars in the area that I grew up with, where I grew up, especially the Black Rock section of Buffalo, New York.
Right.
People from Buffalo, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The corner bars that would make great food. I mean, Cheers, they didn't make food, but it was, I guess you could go upstairs to get the food. But the bars, I mean, they were, community meeting places. They really were.
The only difference for me is that I want to go to a place where nobody knows my name.
See? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Same with me. But Ramaswamy was talking about that, greatness is right there for us. I was reading I forgot, Wall Street Journal, whatever. I think both National Review and Wall Street Journal yesterday covered the problems that China is having.
Yeah.
That people think that just because they're China and the government gets involved, it means everything is okay. It doesn't.
No.
And both articles were talking about the central planning isn't working. The stimulus isn't working.
No.
That the government will say one thing, but the people think a completely different thing in China right now. I think that, one of the things is, when people talk about the fact that, well, conservatives are angry. Conservatives are angry not just for the sake of anger or the fact that the anger is based on jealousy or envy.
Right.
If anger comes from most people who call themselves conservative, and I say that because we've met people that call themselves conservative that aren't. But for most people that call themselves conservative, they're angry because the government is limiting their choice to pursue opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me. You're getting in the way of my freedom.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And in business, I've met 2 young entrepreneurs in the last 2 weeks. I'm getting everything done at my house. I mean, so contractors everywhere. Landscaping job the other day, and talking to the owner of this company, landscaping company, been in existence for about since started his business. Ready for this? May of 2020.
Wow. Good luck with that. Good timing.
And, he told me through the specific details about how his company has grown, by looking at billing and everything else. But when I was talking to him, I never thought that he was 27. And this is when we were talking about what I wanted done. Very, very precise individual. Yeah. Very caring about the customer. And he said something that hooked me, and you'll relate to this because it's something that you and I in our business dealings have always said, and we've said it to each other. He said to me, I always do more than what the contract requires me to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I told you that yet, did I?
No.
I didn't tell you that yet. And that's something that you and I, a long time ago in certain business dealings, we have made it clear. We'll sign the contract, but you need something, we're there for you.
Yeah.
And then I met him. He came out, he says, normally I don't come out on such small jobs. But I think he wanted to meet me, and we had a great conversation. Born, raised in Mexico, U.S. citizen. Now, does not like illegal immigration at all. Does not like it. He talks about, look, the people, he said, I had to work. I had to earn it. I had to do these things and go through it and everything else. He said it's not right. And then he talked about the fact that, he and his family who came here the legal way to become U.S. citizens and did it, they'd like to bring their 80-something-year-old mother to the United States. They can't do it. He goes, we've done everything the right way, and we're willing, that, she come over, they go, well, can she support herself, all that stuff.
Right.
The family will take care of her. She's 80, but we want to bring her to be in the United States. He goes, I can't, yet all these other people are just crossing the border and doing it.
Right.
Huge Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Huge capitalist.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about, opportunity, he said, I don't want opportunity. I want the freedom to create my own opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So our bromance continued.
Well, it's something I think that we have talked about over the years, and that's it. And it goes back to that old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And the first part of that is showing up. You show up. By the way, we'll be out all next week. But you show up every day. It's vacation. Lay off of us. This isn't about you. This is about us. You show up every day, and what you find is those opportunities, because that's part of creating that opportunity. But also, showing up in and of itself isn't just that's you can't just do that. It's a big part of it, but you also have to show up, make yourself available, be willing to learn, and be willing to learn all the different aspects of whatever operation you're talking about. It is an entrepreneurial spirit that exists even with people that aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. You'll find that many of them have an idea. They have these entrepreneurial dreams and aspirations, but even when they're working for somebody else, they have that they take ownership of something, and they create their own opportunities, and then at some point many of them become an entrepreneur.
And so I met him, and he really impressed me. And then other landscape lighting I'm looking to put in, and met another young man, 35 years old. Same thing. Runs 2 different businesses.
Yeah.
At 35.
Yeah.
And married, kids. And the best thing is, he said he's trying to do a podcast about how, as young people, you handle and juggle everything. And I went, well, I got to listen to this one of these days when you get this thing going. But when you look at that, when you see people, whether you are a native of the United States or whether you come here from another country. And when I saw with Jose, who, citizen now from Mexico, you could not find a more patriotic American. Could not find a more patriotic American.
Right.
It's exactly what, and we talked about it. He goes, yeah, I want people that want to be here just for more than making money. I want them to understand what everything is about.
Yeah.
And that's when Ramaswamy said that, this is 1776 moment. You can be a defeatist and say it's all gone, or you can prevent it from being all gone and see the optimism that still exists in the United States that you can create if government lets you do it, that you can do incredible things if government doesn't get in your way. That's a wonderful message for him to be promoting for the Republican Party. And it seemed to be taken very well by the people there. I by no means am a pessimist. I'm a pessimist of bad ideas that don't work, bad ideas that take away liberty and freedom. That's what I'm against, and I'm very pessimistic against that, as you are, and we get very angry about it.
Yep.
But that does not mean that we don't look at the United States and see where we are right now and say there is no better country that is set up right now for the most incredible success to be the longest running democracy. I know, constitutional republic, it's under the umbrella of democracy in the world, and to can have continued success. It is we that determine it. There aren't outside influences that are screwing up this country. It's bad ideas. It's failed ideas. It's authoritarian ideas. It's ideas that don't believe in freedom and liberty and the autonomy of the individual. What we're against is the ideology of racism, identity politics, the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, the denial of science, the irrational emotion that exists in the Democratic Party. And, as we said earlier, we're against ignorance, people that are absolutely clueless about how the world runs, that are attempting to make policy, and they have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
We chose on every level, we chose to be where we are with the major issues. Right now, we're facing inflation, a broken border.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely.
These are all things within our control. Massive hurricanes, not so much. But even then, the response to them is, or lack thereof. And that, again, is a decision, a series of decisions that we make as voters. We have to end this madness and get back to being the nation that we can be. In fact, my gosh, greater than we've ever been. We have the resources. We have the talent. We have everything except our own votes working against us. We have to be able to, at this point now, choose a path to do what we do best. And there just simply can't be another choice, because otherwise it's an implosion like even Vegas hasn't seen.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We'll have the latest update coming up here in just a couple of minutes from the National Hurricane Center. I think last 85 miles an hour, right? The last hour?
The last update. So we'll look for another update soon, and looking for, we'll see exactly what happens next and what the people of Florida in the coming days, months, weeks, years are going to be dealing with in the aftermath.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So, still 85 miles an hour?
Latest update on Hurricane Milton. Right now, moving through Florida. Our friends, we were looking at the radar where there's still very high winds there in the Tampa area. Very soon, the worst of it will be outside of the Tampa area,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of Florida, of course. I mean, my gosh, if you look at the footprint of this storm right now on radar. And looking at it right now, you can see the outer bands going up the coast. My gosh, our friends in South Carolina and Georgia, Savannah, they've been dealing with the outer bands and everything here. But the maximum sustained winds And the latest update from the National Hurricane Center just a few minutes ago, again, are at 85 miles an hour. You see the travel rate of this, the present movement rate is 18 miles an hour, speeding up just a little bit. Right now, according to this latest update from the National Hurricane Center, it's about 10 miles northwest of Cape Canaveral, Florida. So that puts it about 35 miles east of Orlando. And so soon, Florida will have this behind them, but ahead of them will be lots of rebuilding that starts with the assessment of damage from this massive hurricane, a major hurricane, Milton, coming ashore yesterday evening, hours ahead of the forecast, what the forecast had been for a couple of days, but as a hurricane category 3. And tons of damage. There's video coming out right there in the Tampa area. While they didn't get the worst of the surge, they've got tons of rain. The estimates are somewhere around 8 to 10 inches of rain. And you can see videos coming out of downtown Tampa now that show lots of standing water. That's the number one, in fact, danger in terms of the risk and how deadly a hurricane can be. That greatest potential comes from the flooding with both the storm surge and the heavy rains. Yesterday, watching and following along as those outer bands came into Florida and southern and central Florida, they saw some supercell activity, which spawned tornadoes. Last count I saw was 19 or 20, somewhere in that area, that were confirmed touchdown. And then tornado warnings were well over 100, closer to 120 tornado warnings. But a tornado warning can be set off as a result of high winds or a funnel cloud. But certainly local and state officials have had their hands full. All the way up to the governor, and he's been very active in keeping the public aware as to what's going on and what they're doing. But that was one of the jobs they had before the eye wall made landfall yesterday afternoon, was keeping the roads clear in the wake of that tornado damage there in southern and central Florida as the outer bands started to arrive. It's, again, I can't even imagine. But we'll start seeing images of what people are going to have to deal with, what businesses have to deal with, and then keep these folks in your thoughts and prayers, because it's not for many people it's a 1 day or 2 day or maybe week-long news event, but for these individuals, it's years in the making in terms of rebuilding, which many of them will.
Yeah, a lot of that's talking to one of my friends in particular was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, where I have to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got your work, you've got everything else. I mean, her business works from home. I mean, still has to continue. And it's like, how do you do it if the house isn't there? She doesn't know yet because the electricity's off, and so she can't look at her cameras. And so, yeah, it's sad. I got another, as I mentioned earlier, another friend, my best friend's younger brother lives in Venice, Florida, and they would have been on the dirty side of it. So don't know how close to the beach he is, but my best friend put out a thing, pray for him because he could get hit hard.
Sure.
I've got some other people that luckily, 2 years ago, what was it, Ian? Fort Myers. They were able to escape that. They were further inland where they didn't get, the surge. But I don't know. I couldn't do it. I can't imagine having to do that. But we'll keep you updated. So still 85 miles an hour. Soon it will, probably in the next couple of hours, become just a tropical storm. And then as the sun rises, we'll see what the damage is. All right, some other stories out there. This is one. When I saw this yesterday, I said, is this fake? It has to be. And it's not. University of Kansas instructor has been placed on leave after violent comments he made about men who don't support female presidential candidates went viral on social media. The instructor went against men who think they are smarter than women before apparently connecting these thoughts to the presidential race. If you think guys are smarter than girls, you've got some serious problems, the instructor appeared to say in a lecture half full of students at the start of the recording. What frustrates me, there's going to be some in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. Well, we can line all those guys up and shoot them. Here is the actual audio from this clip.
Guys are smarter than girls. You got some serious problems. That's what frustrates me. There are going to be some males in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. We could line all those guys up and shoot them. They clearly don't understand the way the world works. Did I say that? Scratch that from the recording. I don't want the deans hearing that I said that.
Scrap that from the recording because, I could get fired and whatnot.
According to the student newspaper, the man in the video is Phil Lowcock, the director of International Student Athlete Support at the University of Kansas. He has apologized for his comments. He has also been placed on administrative leave. The instructor offers his sincerest apologies and deeply regrets the situation. His intent was to emphasize his advocacy for women's rights and equality. Look, he's a liberal. You know why? Because he thinks men actually think that way in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as we've said, they project the biases that they have. They are the ones that practice identity politics. We don't.
Yeah.
I have never. And I'm older than most people.
You're older than most people.
I'm older than most people in the country.
I just want to reiterate
the
that.
majority of people in this country are younger than me.
Let's stop down and let's really just tear. We like to take our time with ideas and tear things down, Let's spend some time on this.
No.
As to how old you are. I think you deserve it.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, fine. I feel older.
None of this that they in the old days, and I'm not saying that there wasn't more bigotry and sexism in the past. Of course there was. Mm-hmm. But I remember when Harvey Weinstein, the whole thing was going on there, with all of the stuff.
Yeah.
I worked for him. I never met him, but I worked for him at a small club. Harvey Weinstein was part of Harvey and Corky, which was a rock promotion group in Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on there to the movie business after being a music promoter. Mm-hmm. And I worked for him. I was a club DJ in a small club that would bring in regional bands. I think they owned the Century Theater, which probably fit about 1,500 or whatever. Then they owned the smaller club that brought in the police, like the week that the police broke. And it was maybe a club of 300 or 400 that held there. But I spun tunes there for a couple of years, 79 and 80, I believe it was, is when I might have been 79 through 81. I can't remember. That's where I saw Billy Sheen play all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
The bass player that was for David Lee Roth. And
right. Mm-hmm.
What are the other bands he's in?
Mr. Big?
Mr. Big, that's right, Mr. Big.
The Winery Dogs?
Yeah, the Winery. Yeah, you're right, the Winery Dogs. Yeah. And we used to, my buddy Jeff.
Talus back then. I mean, that's
Talus
the band.
Then. Yeah, Talus.
Was the band
right.
that
right.
And I saw them in Texas years ago.
And he was always a great bass player, but Talus sucked. And I know, I saw them 100 times, forced to because I was working. I don't know if it was 100 times, but I saw them a lot. They just weren't a good band. I mean, I just didn't. Their songs sucked. Sorry, they just did. He's a great bass player, and I've seen him. One of the favorite things. You ever see the The one at the Cotton Bowl, Eric Clapton's thing.
Yeah, Crossroads. Yeah.
Who was the
Is
guitar?
that 2010?
2004, I believe it was.
Was it?
Yeah. Who was the other guy that played with David Lee Roth, the guitarist, the great guitarist?
Steve Vai?
Yeah, Steve Vai.
Yeah, both in David Lee Roth's band.
Yeah, it was Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, a couple other guys.
Yeah.
And the song's like, "Get the hell out of here." It's an old instrumental.
Right.
They're playing they stand side by side. Everybody's playing each other's guitar. It's just a great moment. I have it on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I didn't go. I didn't believe that's the part. I mean, it's a thing like right now. You get so involved in the show that you forget things that are happening right in your town.
Yeah.
I missed the biggest drone show that trying to break the record ever in the world that was like 3 miles from me. I didn't even know what was going on till the next morning when I woke up.
Yeah.
And it's all over YouTube. I go, Mansfield where?
Yeah.
Texas? It's a couple miles from me.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had no idea. So busy at work. No idea anything like that was going on. And in my youth, I would have been there. But
Billy's great with the guitarist from Mr. Big, Paul Gilbert, too. They do the same thing where they're just both genius, everybody in the band, at what they do. But, yeah.
Yeah, but this professor, I mean, this is the bigotry. You know they're liberals because they think that way.
Yeah. When everybody was talking about, your point on Harvey Weinstein, everybody says, back in the day, it was never acceptable. I don't know a time it was ever acceptable.
Well, thank you for keeping me on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. When that's what I said at that point. Well, because Weinstein, it was more acceptable. People were defending him back then. I said, no, it wasn't.
No.
It was never acceptable.
No.
It wasn't acceptable when I worked at the bank in the 70s. You knew it, especially when you worked at the bank. I mean, people think that wokeness in banks or whatever it is started 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
No, in business, you couldn't do anything wrong even in the 70s.
Right.
Otherwise, you end up in human resources.
Right.
And so this thing that, it was, acceptable. I have never thought ever that women, because I never judged any group
right
as in a particular way.
Right.
And so to me, that's Neanderthal thinking. And to believe that happens today, I'm not saying that there probably are. We know there are misogynists out there because the Democrats exist.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that's where the misogyny exists, is the Democratic Party, and it's so crystal clear with their being fine with the intimidation, the threats, and the bullying of women that say men shouldn't compete against them. Right. So we know it exists, but it's where does it exist? And where is it? It certainly has never been acceptable in my conservative world since I've been in college.
Yeah.
Or high school.
Right.
I say college because I probably started paying attention more to the news. It was never acceptable.
Yeah.
And so you see the identity politics. Where's the racism of today only acceptable? The Democratic Party. Where's the misogyny of the radical transgender movement? Have you heard a major Democrat come out and say that the bullying, the intimidation, the threatening of these women in college sports is wrong? One Democrat. One. I've never heard one.
Nope.
Maybe Manchin. Maybe Manchin.
Yeah.
I'll say maybe Manchin.
Yeah.
Other than that, no. And did you know today is Real Women's Day? I don't know if Riley Gaines, she posted the new ad that goes after Nike.
Oh, right.
Of not supporting women. And there's another one. There's the group, finally, women, because they intimidated the hell out in schools and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
They intimidated the hell out of young people. You better believe this is the way that it is. A man can be a woman if the man wishes to.
Right.
You can be whatever you want.
We'll come after you if you any dissent from within their ranks. We've seen it. We'll come after you.
But none of this has ever been acceptable. But the professor is on leave.
Jeez. Can you imagine? But we've said it. This is how they think. They even said it. Look, strike that from the recording. I wouldn't want the dean to hear it.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm pretty sure we know now the dean has heard it.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. This Riley Gaines posted this. This is the new ad by a group that is promoting and honoring women on Real Women's Day. Real Women's Day. Here we go. Here's the ad.
All right.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike. Why won't you stand up for me?
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls? Yet when we need you most, you remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity,
our sports,
our spaces.
Men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals, trophies, and our future.
And it's not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to come before ours? See, with a big platform
comes an even bigger responsibility.
You have a chance to do the right thing, not just do the easy thing.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
As the biggest voice in all of sports.
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me? Will you?
Will you?
Will you just do it?
Save women's sports.
There you have it.
That's what it's called.
Wow.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can say, hey, I couldn't listen to the show last night because I was sleeping. You can listen to it whenever you want then. That's true.
Yeah, I always make people feel bad when they go, sorry, I don't hear your show much because I'm not up all night. And then I go, oh, well, we have an app. Thanks for being aware of that.
All right.
It is cool, by the way, to be able to tell people that, hey, look, if you can't listen live, then check out the app and you can listen later in the day.
Now, the commercial I was playing that Riley Gaines posted on X yesterday might have been cut off, and it's not my fault. I'm an old man from a middle-class family.
We had a meeting. It's your fault.
No, I'm an old man from a middle-class family.
Yep, and that's why, because old men from middle-class families are bad at timing. It's a proven fact. I'm going to act like I'm on a debate stage.
It's
a proven fact.
It's a proven fact. Is it the old man or is it the middle class family?
Yes.
Or a combination of the
both.
Okay.
It's both. And that's the problem, Mr. McNamara. You're unfit.
So, all right, I screwed up. I didn't get the timing right.
It's your knucklehead moment.
I'm a knucklehead. Oh, knucklehead, Mom.
Yeah, you're not the permission structure for timing. That's for sure.
Oh, my gosh. Could you do the day of the week thing again for me here, just for my entertainment?
Well,
do the day of the week thing.
I just want to say, before I tell you what my plan is, today is Thursday, which means that as we think of tomorrow, we must think of Friday. We must include Friday. And as we think about tomorrow and we think of Friday, then we look further down the road to the weekend. And everybody is working for the weekend. And I think that as we learn from yesterday, which was Wednesday, then we have to take with us those lessons from yesterday into tomorrow, which is Friday. But right now, here and today, which is Thursday, I just want to say it's Thursday. I also want to say that Gary and I are not the same person. We are two different individuals. He's old. I just look old. So there's that difference.
Okay.
What's the difference between you and Gary? Colbert would ask me, and I would say, well, he looks old. I just look older.
No.
He
I'm
is
old.
old. He is old. I just look older.
By the way, the past segment was simply for my entertainment purposes.
That's right.
Only.
That's right.
You could have joined in, but it's all about us.
That's right.
So
yeah, quit making it about you, audience.
Right. The listener be damned.
Station managers getting up there to check on their stations.
Probably not the message you should be sending out.
This isn't going to be good. This is not good.
All right, let me play the full ad now since I screwed up.
Yeah, it's worth hearing again for those that did hear it. It's worth hearing again.
Yeah,
it's important.
This is really probably one of the most effective ads because the people in it, the women in it, are all young.
Right. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike. Why won't you stand up for me?
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls? Yet when we need you most, you remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity,
our sports,
our spaces.
Men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals, trophies, and our future.
It is not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to come before ours? See, with a big platform
comes an even bigger responsibility.
You have a chance to do the right thing, not just do the easy thing.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
As the biggest voice in all of sports.
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me? Will you?
Will you?
Will you just do it?
And then save women's sports. Will you just do it?
Will you just do it? I love that.
And that's by a group called XXXY Athletics.
Yeah, making all of the points, and this is what it comes down to. They point out, you've got a huge platform. Nike has great influence and has, especially in sports. And we are at a time when we're either going to allow the left to completely disintegrate Title IX, and if they do that, then the entire Civil Rights Act eventually is going to be gone, because we've been saying all along, if anyone can belong to a protected class simply by saying so, then there are no protected classes. That's what this means. And as they take aim here at Nike, it's for anyone who has that kind of influence. That has to be the consideration, because we started on this years ago, and we went over it in Obama's final year, and that joint edict that they put out between the Department of Justice and Department of Education on public schools. This is our interpretation of Title IX. No, their interpretation of Title IX is it should be gone. That's it. If men can play in women's sports simply by saying they're a woman, then that protected class under Title IX is gone.
And I don't think because so many live in the bubble of today that people realize Obama was the one that kickstarted this.
Yep.
Obama was the one who did it. And you and I remember, too, because people think that, and it's one of the things that always irks me, he was just one smart. He was an idiot.
Yep.
Obama's an idiot.
Yep.
He may have been president of the United States. I respect the office. I don't need to respect the person who holds it.
Right.
He's an idiot. He is the one, number one. Three of the cultural things that he did. First off, he's the one that started the hate the police movement in this country.
Yep.
He's the one that really got it moving.
Right.
In this country. Remember the beer summit?
Yep.
Where he would get up there and he would blame the cops before he even knew the situation that was going on.
The Professor Gates incident.
Yep.
And the cops acted stupidly. That's what he said. Those are his words.
And he is the one that kicked off all of this. Was his administration that, again, changed the meaning of Title IX. He did it. He's the one. It's his administration with his full approval. And then people don't remember one of the last exit interviews he did. I believe it was with The Atlantic. You and I remember, I believe it came out in December of it would have come out in December of 16?
Yeah.
Yeah. December of 16, where they asked him, why do you call yourself black? Because you're mixed. And he said, I've come to the conclusion that race is a social construct.
Right.
And so the radicalness of the transracial movement, remember racial dolezal, whatever,
Yep.
Obama was the highest level person in the country to ever promote all of those absolutely insane and unscientific narratives. He's the one.
Yep.
And it's insane. I'm sorry, but if you're insane because you throw out insane ideas, I don't mean mentally insane. I mean issue insane, and where you promote the issues, then you're not the smartest guy in the world.
Yep.
But also here, high school students across New York plan to participate in a walkout later this month to protest transgender athletes competing in girls' sports. The nationwide demonstration, set for October 24th, being organized by the Coalition to Protect Kids. It's not right for boys to compete against girls. It's a huge disadvantage for girls, said Hannah Pompeo, a 16-year-old soccer player at Eden High School near Buffalo, who's participating in the walk-off for Fairness Day. Millie McCormick, a student dancer at Summers High School in Westchester County, said she and her sister would also be taking part in the protest. I don't think it's right for men to be in our safe places. We work hard for places on our team. Boys have physical advantages that we don't have. The group supporting the walkout oppose Proposition 1, a measure on the ballot that also called the Equal Rights Amendment, would enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution. New York already has among the strongest abortion rights laws in the nation, and critics claim the ballot measure is unnecessary and just a ruse to try to boost Democratic turnout in the competitive congressional and state legislative races, as well as the White House. The proposal also asks voters whether they support or oppose adding language to the Constitution stating that people cannot be denied rights based on their race, color, ethnicity, national origin, race, disability, creed, religion, or sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, pregnancy outcomes, reproductive health care, and autonomy. I don't even know what the hell that means. But, yeah, so they're trying to get that enshrined in the Constitution.
Right.
That's the other thing. And this is the insanity. We're just good. We find it very good that all this is happening.
No, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
Eric and I were here for the longest time, where our own listeners would say, come on, guys, the whole thing is crazy. It's not going to go anywhere. And we said, you're wrong.
These are isolated incidents. When we started talking about it, it was a young girl and her family and their concerns, her concerns, and coming home from school, and there were men in her bathroom, and the officials in California were saying, well, she's bigoted. The problem with your daughter is she's bigoted. Then on to the Charlotte Observer editorial board, when they basically conveyed the idea that your daughter needs to get used to male genitalia.
Yeah. And we were amazed. We did feel like that we were one of the few media outlets passionately protesting against the insanity, which is now fully ingrained as a mainstream idea of the Democrat Party. It's the continuation of their identity politics. It's a continuation of the absolute incredible evil misogyny of the Democratic Party.
It's perversion. Right. When you think about them now saying and promoting the idea that underage children under the age of 18 have a right to decide their own genital mutilation surgery. And that if you are against it as a parent, you're the problem. And in some areas, they're promoting the idea of, we will take temporary custody of your child. We consider that to be abusive, and so we'll move in. These are the ideas they're promoting. When they said, we're coming after your children, remember the protest signs, they meant it.
Yep, they meant it. And we get a great deal of satisfaction out of what's happening, the growing rebellion from women, because I remember the night I said it. I said, Eric, we're men and we're talking about it. There are no women. Right. There are no mainstream women in athletics talking about it. Right. Until they do, it's never going to change. And we were amazed at how many women, and we realized what was happening now inside the colleges and inside schools. Yep. The as we call it, the blue wall of intimidation, bullying, and threatening you with your lives or your goals in life, that it would be destroyed if you didn't do it. But still, there are women not in that situation, and for the longest time, nobody spoke up. Right. And nobody still has in the Democratic Party. Every single member of the Democrat Congress voted yes, were Democrats for the Equality Act a few years ago. Right. It didn't pass on the federal level, but it's now mainstream. It's not a fringe view. It's absolutely as mainstream as the racism of identity politics.
Right. Unbelievable.
And the climate change insanity and the grid insanity, all the and the border insanity.
The left is openly promoting discrimination against women, which is exactly what Title IX is looking to protect from.
Right. And it's just, we're very grateful to see these groups, because we know a lot of them have been, they've been bullied a lot, and it's tough to do that. 866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Knuckle-head.
We got to get you a camouflage hat.
Oh, I got to find where she had a beer on Colbert. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah. It's like
a beer.
Right.
It's like,
that's funny, because I thought you were already drunk. Maybe it's just me.